Doo-ba-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Doo-ba-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Doo-ba-doo-doo-doo-doo. Doo-ba-doo-doo-doo-doo.
I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
All right. Happy Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sab's podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. Welcome back, guys. We have quite a bit to get into. So shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Twitter, and of course, Rumble. It's a big night. It's a big night in news. Tonight's theme is It's Going Down. You may remember there was a song, Meet Me at the Mall. It's going down. Meet me at the club. It's going down. Well, don't meet them in Iran because it is really, really, really going down. So much that we have to get into about the Iran war. We're covering a little bit of foreign policy and domestic policy tonight. But it's crazy times out here in these streets. Let's go ahead and get started by giving shout outs to people in the chat, ladies and gents. And again, I got to say it. Shout out to all the Pisces B-days. Yay! My B-day is this weekend. If you're a Pisces, what's up? Let's give a shout out here to Old Trapper 71, who just became a Sabby member. Let's give Old Trapper a big whoop, whoop in the house. Greetings. I know myself says America is about to buy weapons from Ukraine and is quoting Bible verses about Trump getting anointed. It's crazy. I've seen it. It's crazy. What was the poll question again? Yeah, please be sure to answer that poll who you think will be able to win this war. I'll make sure I actually show the poll this time at the end of the show and I don't screw that up like I did last time. Greetings, Rockman says, bless up. Shout out to Silver Surfer says, peace, love, Sabby. Greetings, Moo says, remember when Hillary said she was under fire in Bosnia, only that wasn't true. The Epstein files said that rich people went to war-torn places to kill civilians for fun. Maybe that's what she meant. Ooh. Do, 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 do. Greetings, CBC voters, says happy Thursday, Sabby and Eric. Shout out to DeReal, says Marines, Maine, while in Cuba. Greetings, Bill. So funny Piers is getting sued by one of the Zionist crazies that he helped. That's so Zionist. Karma is something, isn't it? Shout out to Ronnie. Says, hello, Sabby, Eric, and chat. So sickened by all of this. So heartbreaking when I saw these assholes. Yeah, assholes did to that Marine. My dad was a Marine, and so was my nephew. Yeah, we have quite a bit to say. Also, his family has left a statement for everyone. So we'll get into all of that. Greetings, Steinbauer says, looking forward to your show. Thank you, Sabby. Shout out to Salma says, please tell Pete Hegseth that he has an Antichrist tattoo according to Christianity. Plus, kafar is Arabic and biblical Hebrew word, and it means deceiver in Christianity and Judaism and Islam. Shout out to All One Same says, ding dong, the witch was fired. Christy Nome has been let go. Yeah, I heard that. And I was like, well, am I going to cover it? I'm like, I don't know. I already got like 5 stories. Plus, we do have 2 interviews that are going to premiere this weekend that you haven't seen yet. An interview with Tara Reid. I'll also be interviewing Professor Mohammed Morandi, who is in Iran. We'll be talking to him again as well. But I look at it this way. Think about this for a second. Yeah, she's fired. But remember what Kristi Noem said. She said she was doing what Donald Trump told her to do. So, you know, they got to throw someone under the bus, but they're not going to go after the head of the snake. Thank you. But Shiva says, hello, Sabby and everyone. Greetings, hard-hitting history. There are no winners in war, only survivors. That's a good point there. Shout out to Nancy said, shouldn't be in Israel's war. No, we should not. Hannah said, I think all sides will lose the war. Shout out to Cloudman says, Pisces season, gang, B1 fam. Happy B-Day to all my Pisces gang. Salute to Sabs and everyone in the chat. One love. That's right. It's Pisces season. What can I tell you a little bit about Pisces? We're sweet. We're very nice. We're very giving, but we can also be mean. Like, and usually when we get upset or we are like, you know, angry, it kind of catches people by surprise. For the most part, Pisces, we're it says that we're more so creative, dreamer types, and pretty giving people. But if we feel like we're being screwed over or whatever, we will come back to bite you. And that's usually not a pleasant time. Greetings, Bryce said, what up, Sabs and Eric T, sup everyone in the chat. Let's go ahead and get started because we have so much to get into. What is this, President Jafar? Pisces are jealous lovers. Oh, no. What's the guy from Family Guy? What does he say? No. I agree with this one, Regina. Pisces are old souls. Yeah, we do tend to be, you know, my mom used to say, like, when I was a kid, she said I was like a grandma, because when I was a kid, I used to like to, and I still do this, like, I like to have, you know, a nice cup of tea, you know, some hot tea, a little bit of honey in it or whatever. And I used to love to read, and I used to fall asleep with a glass of water by my bed. So my mom said I was like a grandma. Oh, man. And Circus said they're not old souls. They are me. Hey, I think we can be pretty nice people, but we don't like to be pissed off. Okay, let's go ahead and give a shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you guys so much for your support. I really do appreciate all of you. If you are interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories, fam. We have the ultimate, the Sabinators. Don't forget about the Sabsters. There's also a group called Sabbies. I think they're pretty cool as well. And last but not least, don't forget about the members. All of their names are listed here. And you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen on the ticker throughout the show. We would like to give a shout out to the new Sabby patrons. We call them newbies. Let's give it up for Elliot Chandler, Tracy Little, Ali Bakshande, I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, and Tara Carrion. Thank you guys so much. Really do appreciate you, and welcome to the fam. Yay! I need a little applause thing there. Anywho, tonight's theme is It's Going Down. It's going down. Let's go ahead and take a look at that thumbnail so you can see what we are discussing tonight. if you have been asleep, and I don't think any of you have, if you've been watching this show, you know that we are at war with Iran. Yes, we are. Tonight, we are discussing, oh boy, this is a big one. There's so much happening here when it comes to the Iran war. We're going to break this down into 4 different parts because there's just so much to discuss. But the big news is Iran apparently has hit a CIA facility in the Middle East, and the CIA has announced that they are going to try to arm the Kurds. And I'm going to explain to you why this is significant with the United States. We have done this before. I'm going to tell you where they are positioned and why that actually matters. We're also going to get into this hit that happened in international waters of the Iranian ship that was not armed. We're going to talk about what France is saying now with Lebanon. Israel is also attacking Lebanon, and France seems like they're coming to their aid. It's crazy out here in these streets. And we're also going to talk about that War Powers Act that was just introduced in Congress. And last but not least, we're breaking it down into the global impact because it is already being announced by the 4 economies in the Middle East. They are thinking about cutting ties with us. So we are looking at the fall of the American empire. We're also going to discuss karma is something, isn't it? Piers Morgan has announced that he is being sued, not by a Palestinian, not by an Iranian. He's being sued by an Israeli. We're going to get into all of that, folks, because you know who he was shilling for years. We're also going to discuss if you are a Marine, this is your moment. If you are a soldier, this is your moment to stand by your brethren. And that brethren that you see there in that second yellow square, he was attacked by a senator in Congress. We are going to talk about that. Remember the oath that you took, you stand by your brothers. So my family was military, so I know what's up. Whether you're still in or not, you're supposed to be there for your brothers. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to discuss Pam Bondi has been subpoenaed. Oh, yes. Meet me at the mall. It's going down. Pam Bondi has been subpoenaed. Nancy Mace is also calling for subpoenas for other people. We're going to go through that list as well. And last but not least, if you haven't heard, Jasmine Crockett has lost that Democratic primary race for the Senate in Texas. We're going to get into why I believe she lost. So we're going to get into all of that, ladies and gents. So let's go ahead and get cracking. StreamYard does some weird things sometimes. I don't know why they. Oh, well. Oh, they're trying to show the extra thing that I didn't even want to see. Interesting. Anywho, let's go ahead and get into it, ladies and gents. If you have not done so, please do me a solid and smash that like button. Thank you very much. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Let's go ahead and get started with this first story, ladies and gentlemen. Jasmine Crockett. You know, when the Republicans were encouraging her to run and they said, run, Jasmine, run. What did I tell you? I told you that they wanted her to run because they knew that she would lose. It kind of reminded me of the Pied Piper strategy when the Democrats were trying to basically pump up Donald Trump during the 2016 presidential election because they figured he would lose. They're like, yeah, let's get someone so crazy to run and he'll lose. But in that case, it did not work. It actually backfired on the Democratic Party. But she has lost. And I think I want to start here with this ad that Jasmine Crockett had, because when she released this ad, I was warning you guys back then. I said, uh-oh, she is there's no way with this. Just a reminder.
But you have this woman, Crockett. She's a very low IQ person.
I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. Crockett. Oh, man. Oh, man. She's a very low IQ person.
So the reason why I said that, I don't know what's going on with StreamYard. Oh, here we go. The reason why I said that this ad was going to be a problem is because Jasmine Crockett was not running against Donald Trump. If she was running against Donald Trump, actually, okay, I get it. But she wasn't running against him. She was running against James Tallarico. The other problem is this ad presented no policies. What were you going to do? What would you do differently? It was none of that. And it kind of came across as like this vanity campaign. So for me, I said, yeah, I don't think this is going to work. Now, she was running against James Tallarico, and I want to show you just a little bit of a difference here. Let me go ahead and show you one of his ads, because I just want you to see the difference when we talk about policy and like a vanity campaign.
Billionaires don't just influence politicians, they own them. That's why I don't take corporate PAC money. It's why I fought to cap campaign contributions. In the Senate, I'll ban billionaires from making unlimited secret donations. I'll stop members of Congress from trading stocks, and I'll raise taxes on those at the top to fund tax cuts for the rest of us. I'm James Tallarico, and I approve this message because our government should work for all of us, not just billionaires.
Okay. So one of the differences that I think that you see with these ads here is that, number one, hold on. I don't know what's going on with StreamYard. Sorry, guys. Number one of the big differences that you see with these ads is that he was talking about the economy. He was talking about money. He was talking about the billionaires, those types of things. And I think a big part of the difference is that with Jasmine Crockett's ad, it was seemed to focus more so on Donald Trump. And yes, you got to talk about Donald Trump, but the reality is people want to know what you're going to do for them and what you're going to do differently, right? Now, here's the thing. Her campaign did eventually call him out, because even though he said he was coming after the billionaires, he was taking dark money from the billionaires. So let's go ahead and bring this in here.
James Tallarico says the right things, but he doesn't practice what he preaches. He says he'll take on billionaires, but a billionaire-funded super PAC is spending $5.4 million in dark money supporting him. He says he'll show up for Texas, but he missed over 900 votes, like rural health care, education, and school safety. Jasmine Crockett has taken on bullies from the courtroom to Congress and won. Tallarico is just talk. Crockett is all fight.
So I thought that was important to call out there, which is that James Tallarico was saying that he was fighting against the billionaires, but he was also taking dark money from billionaires. So that was the part that people didn't know about. But by the time I think that she started to hit back at him with his campaign, I think it was already a little too late, right? Some of the criticisms that I'm hearing from people is that they said she didn't have a ground game. I'm not in Texas. I don't know. If you live there, you let me know. I don't know. I think that it took too long to focus on policy. The other thing we have to bring up is geopolitics. The Israel question, James Tallarico, let me be very clear. James Tallarico isn't pro-Palestinian. Now, he, touted that he didn't take any AIPAC money, but James Tallarico kind of like took this position as he just wanted to kind of be neutral on the issue. So he kind of tried to play it safe. I'm not going to say I'm pro-Palestinian. I'm not taking any AIPAC money, but I'm just going to kind of be neutral on this and say, well, we probably shouldn't be having all these wars. You see what he kind of did there? But what he didn't tell people is that he was backed by Maryam Adelson. And if I was Jasmine Crockett and I was running against James Tallarico, I would have led with that he is backed by Maryam Adelson. So he literally had the same donor as Donald Trump did. And that's something I think that they really should have led with and hammered on, but they didn't. And part of that is because both of these parties support Israel and the pro-Israel message. So we have to remember that. And then here's the other problem that we run into with this particular campaign. Jasmine Crockett was in Congress. She was in the House. So she ended up losing that seat because of all the redistricting that was going on in Texas. Now, it has also happened to others as well, and it's been done by the Democratic Party. So it's not just the Republican Party. It's been done by both. Dennis Kucinich, who was on the show before, that's how he lost his seat in the House. The Democratic Party said this guy is too progressive, so they redrew the district so that he didn't have one. And that's how they got Dennis Kucinich out. So this game has been played by many. But that's what happened with Jasmine Crockett. The Republicans did that. So that's how she did not have that seat anymore in the House. So now that she is lost, she can't go back to her seat in the House. She can't go back to that anymore. So she's kind of like just now she's out politically altogether because she lost this Senate race as well. Some people are saying, well, it's because, she is Black. It's because of this, there's always going to be some of that. But I think that a Senate race is different from a House race, because in the Senate races, you're campaigning across the entire state, right? It's just like when Elizabeth Warren runs here in Massachusetts, like she's not just campaigning in Cambridge and Boston. So those are things to keep in mind. And Texas is a big, big state. So where she was able before to win that seat to get into the House, now you are expanding that to a larger state, a larger population, which may not be aligned with you in that position. Back to the geopolitics of it all, Jasmine Crockett also did not take money from AIPAC, but she's on record multiple times in interviews, including during the Senate race, being pro-Israel and saying we have to support Israel. So I don't know. I don't know what else to tell people, but the Democrats really got to get away from the Israel support, and they have to get away from big money. I don't think that's going to happen. And because they're not really an opposition party. Now, Jasmine Crockett is here, and she is saying that she believes there was cheating going on. Listen to this.
All Red has already stated, we encourage each and every one of you to remain resilient. We cannot allow this type of behavior to be rewarded, because so long as they know that they can win, even if it means cheating, then they will continue to do it. So I am asking you, I am begging you to make sure that you go ahead and figure out where it is that you are supposed to vote. Stand in line, wait in line. All Red has already stated.
So she alluded to the fact that there was cheating going on. And I don't know. What I will say is that, look, the polls were saying before this election that she was behind and that he was winning. And so I don't know, but you know how these elections go, right? So hopefully I say Jasmine Crockett can take a good look at this and everything that has happened and maybe reflect on it and see what she should have done differently. But as it stands for right now, her political career is over, at least for now. This is it. There's no seat for her to go back to in the House. This is done. Now, here's something very interesting that I want to show you. Despite all of that, James Tallarico still has to go to the general election in November. But despite all of that, the numbers are showing that Democrats came out heavily during this particular race and others, and the numbers are not lying. Democrat voters came out at record numbers to vote so far in these primary races. Remember, we're not even in the general election yet. These are the primary races. Take a look at the numbers.
Just in from Texas, this is interesting. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett conceded to James Tallarico in the Democratic Senate primary there. Notable because it was a hotly contested race and there were some questions about voting there, but she has now conceded, meaning he has a clear path all the way to November. Not so clear on the Republican side, where there is a runoff between Attorney General Ken Paxton and the incumbent Republican Senator John Cornyn. So we'll see over the next 3 months who wins there. With us now, CNN chief data analyst Harry Etten. But we're not focused on who's running. That might not be the most important thing here. The most important thing here might be who's voting.
Who is voting? And I would say the word to describe it for Democrats, tremendous turnout. I mean, woof. Texas Democratic Senate primary turnout, The highest ever was this primary. We're already up to 2.3 million, and that's only with 92% of the estimated voting. That will climb ever higher. The 2000s average was less than 1 million. They've more than doubled the average turnout for Texas Senate Democratic primaries. The Democrats came out and voted. This beats the old record, which was 2.2 million, and that was in a presidential primary year between Obama and Clinton, and this beat it. Democrats really enthusiastic. As I said, the word to describe this is tremendous.
I can't even believe.
Everyone needs to take note at what is happening, right? 2.3 million people came out to vote in a Democrat primary. This is not the general election. This is the primary. JB said this dude really loves his job. I think he does. He's always cracking me up. But this is very important for people to see. And this is not good for the Republican Party. If this trend continues going into November, Democrats are going to take back the House and possibly take back the Senate as well. Like they said, guys, these are record numbers. So pay close attention to what is going on. And I think this is part of the reason why Trump is trying to cause a lot of chaos, because he knows that if Democrats win back the House and if they win back the Senate, they're going to try to find a way to impeach him. Now, impeach doesn't mean remove from office, but it means it starts the process. He would still, of course, obviously have to have a hearing in the Senate. But if it's a Democrat-led Senate, he could be on his way out of there. So he does not want that to happen. Let's go on a little bit more here.
Believe it be 2008. People, if you can remember back that far, that was such an important race in Texas. There's so much focus, and there were still more people voting in this one than that one in 2008. How about as a share of the people who voted overall?
It's not just that this 2.3 million is such a large portion, the largest ever for a Texas Senate Democratic primary. It's that more people voted in the Democratic primary than the Republican primary. Look at this. Share of Texas midterm primary ballots. Look at this. The 2000s average. If you look at the 2000s, on average, you see this: Republicans outvote Democrats. More people choose the Republican ballot than the Democratic ballot in midterm primaries by 60% to 40%, a margin of 3-2. But look so far, Democrats, more people are actually choosing the Democratic ballot. This is extremely, extremely unusual, 51% to 49%. And so far, there have actually been more of the Republican ballots estimated to be counted than Democrats. So this margin may climb ever higher. And I will note that this is the first time Democrats outvoted Republicans in a midterm primary season in Texas since 2002. So a lot of Democrats voting and more Democrats voting than Republicans. As I said, tremendous for Democrats.
And you know what? Yeah. So look at that. Look how many Republicans turned out for the midterms in 2026, these primary races so far, 49%. What that tells me is that, and some may not admit this, but that tells me that I think some of those Republicans are actually voting Democrat. In fact, there have been some people that have sent me emails that said this is it for them. They said this is it. And they said that they're going to be supporting the Democratic Party. I also think more people have just stayed home. Ideally, I'm willing to bet more people stayed home than turned out to vote for the Democratic Party. Then this is what happens when people don't get what they ask for. When people are disappointed and the needs of the American people are not met, more than likely, more people are going to choose to stay home. Now, pay close attention to this guy, because this is really interesting. He is in the position right now, it seems, to get into the House. He's also there in Texas in a sermon. This sermon was delivered October 8th, 2023. So right after October 7th. Reverend Frederick Douglass Haynes III referred to Israel as an apartheid state. He just won his primary, and from what I understand, that is a safe blue district. So he is poised to get right into the House. Listen to what he said on October 8th of 2023.
I'm about to lose you because I recognize that we got to be pro-Israel. Yeah, we got to do that, or we get in trouble. Well, I'm coming to get in trouble. Israel, and I'm going to quote Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter says that Israel is engaging in apartheid with Palestinians. And so the Palestinians who don't have the weaponry of Israel, the Palestinians don't have the financial backing from the United States that Israel has. And so they throw their rocks and shoot their arrows, and Israel is able to bomb them and kill them. Watch in the news the disparity between Palestinians being killed and Israelis being killed. It is totally unfair, but this country's gonna stand on the side of apartheid because that's its track record. It stood by apartheid in South Africa because it created apartheid in this country.
So that is Reverend Haynes, and he won his primary. I believe he's a Justice Democrat. I would encourage Reverend Haynes to run as an independent. He's already won the primary, so he might as well just become an independent. It's a safe blue district. It's not like a Republican's going to come in and win, but you can see it here. They said, Green Party said, preach, Freddie, preach, primary win, 100% APAC free. Frederick Haynes, the third of Texas 30th district. So a lot of people are talking about this guy. And I wanted you to hear that because I wanted you to hear the difference between the way that he spoke about this and the way that Jasmine Crockett spoke about it and the way that James Tallarico spoke about it. He was very clear about his position. From what I understand, I looked into him. He's been pro-Palestine since he was a kid. So this isn't someone who just hopped on this for shits and giggles or whatever. But when you commit to fighting for those that are occupied, when you commit to no wars, you have to come in with every ounce of fire inside of you. You cannot use this timid approach that James Tallarico used. So I'm telling you, keep an eye on him. You cannot use the approach that Jasmine Crockett used, where she's just like, well, no, I don't take money from AIPAC, but we gotta support Israel. You come in wholeheartedly unapologetic. That's the type of energy that you have to have. Now, a lot of people are talking about this. A lot of people are upset that Jasmine Crockett lost. But the thing is, we tried to tell you that this was going to happen. You can't just run on black girl magic. You can't just run on she's a black woman, so you should put her in there. And I warned you in the beginning that that ad was not going to do it. And so people see what has come of this. But it's going down, guys. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of surprises this year. I also think there's going to be a lot of disappointments. And I think as long as the Democratic Party is willing to not be an oppositional party, I think they're going to see a lot of disappointments this year. And the Republican Party. I think that paves the way for some of these independents and some of these green candidates. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. I said it. I said it, Black Girl Magic. I said it. Okay, let's get to some of the comments here, ladies and gents, and we'll get to the next story. Thank you, Mark. Do you ever hurt your upper arms from lifting? No, not anymore. In the beginning, yes. In the beginning, it used to, I used to get sore a lot, but not as much anymore. Thank you, Zaf, for the super sticker. Thank you, Ambera. Sabby caught you live. Happy early birthday. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Measured Man. She did a listening tour. We gave her feedback and she didn't take it. Crockett. So we said F it. Why do a listening tour? Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Measured Man. Jasmine, sounds like you should have listened. New York Varsity says, Sabby, I'm a Tulsi supporter, but watching her sell No War with the Ron t-shirts last year and sitting silent today was disappointing. Yeah, Tulsi has been completely compromised. Completely compromised. All right, ladies and gents, go ahead and smash the like. We're going to keep it moving and grooving to the next story here. And if you are a soldier or were a soldier, I think you need to pay attention to this one. Brian McGinnis, a Marine, also a firefighter. He approached Congress to push back against this war with Iran. I want to show you Brian before he walked into that room. This is him here.
Hey guys, I'm here in DC trying to speak out against the Senate and ask them why they're going to send our men and women to harm's way when our elected officials said that there would be no war. Anybody who feels disillusioned and betrayed by our government, you're not alone. Join us in demanding accountability for this betrayal. Free Palestine, free America. Let's go.
Okay, so that's Brian McGinnis there. I consider him to be a hero after what happened to him the other day. I think you guys will too. So Brian McGinnis is not just someone who confronted Congress about the Iran war. He's not just someone who's a Marine or a firefighter. Brian McGinnis is also a Green Party candidate. So this is the guy who was assaulted by a senator yesterday in Congress. They didn't just assault a Marine, they assaulted a candidate. And I think Brian McGinnis should sue them. I really do. We're going to get to that video now. I want to show you what happened to him. Again, U.S. Marine that our Congress members claim to care so much about. They care so much about these soldiers. Watch how he is treated.
Israel is the reason for this war. America does not want to fight this war for Israel. Let's go. Come on, let's go. America does not want to send its sons and daughters to war for Israel. Your inability to name that shows you have this as leaders. This is wrong, Doc. And nobody wants to fight for Israel. A reminder to all our Commandant, please stand up as a Marine and stand up for America. No one wants to fight for Israel.
The guy here in the suit, that's a senator. That's Senator Sheehy. Senator Sheehy has no business being involved in this matter. This matter is between that Marine and the officers trying to drag him out of the room. So Senator Sheehy steps in, and he's the one that breaks Brian's arm. Here he is trying to be a hero. I don't know what the hell he's doing. He had no business intervening.
No one wants to fight for Israel.
If you look right here, his arm is positioned right around this door. Here comes Senator Sheehy. He's the one that does it.
Sir, thank you for your service. The senator broke his hand. The senator broke his hand.
He's a Marine. Somebody come help him.
Control your Senate committee.
Look at you guys. You're robots. You won't even look back. Look at you guys. You're like robots. Oh my God, what is happening?
They are robots. This guy is pretty much the calmest person at that point. You didn't see him try to charge anybody or anything. They came after him. This man had his arm broken by a senator because he does not want a war with Iran. And Senator Sheehy thought it was his responsibility to step in here and intervene. This is how they care about the Marines. Do you see how they're treating armed forces? The troops that they always want to support? Support our troops by breaking their arm? Anything for Israel. And if we go on here, you'll also see who Senator Sheehy really is. Senator Sheehy says he decided to help out and de-escalate by breaking the man's arm. Let's be clear. The man is a Marine Corps veteran. He was protesting war with Iran. Sheehy, a sitting senator, physically attacked him until his arm snapped. You can hear the crack on the video. This is not security. It is assault by an elected official who couldn't handle hearing an opinion he disagreed with. Tim Sheehy has collected over $640,000 from the pro-Israel lobby. So this is what we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. You have an AIPAC puppet who is willing to attack a soldier for Israel. This is how bad this has become. We are turning on our own. People are turning on American citizens, American soldiers for Israel. That is the blind loyalty that exists here. Nobody told him to get involved in any of this. And as you'll see, quote review.
Ouch. No one wants to fight.
I don't know if you guys saw that, but at this point right here, Senator Sheehy actually pushed the officer.
For Israel!
His hand.
Here he comes, Mr. Strongman. Let me get in here and get that guy out of here. The Marine is right. No one wants to fight for Israel. What are we doing as a country? What are we doing to people? They're willing to turn on their own for this genocidal state. Now, Tim Sheehy did issue a response. Listen to this crap. Capitol Police were attempting to remove an unhinged protester from the armed service hearing. He was fighting back. I decided to help out and de-escalate the situation. The gentleman came to the Capitol building looking for confrontation, and he got one. I hope he gets the help he needs without causing further violence. So do you see how he responds to the Marines? Look at the message from Community Note. The senator describes this as de-escalation, but the full video and reporting show he joined officers by physically grabbing the Marine's leg, then his arm breaks. Reports say the protester was treated for an injury after. The Marine did not come to start a confrontation. He protested. Community Notes comes in to get you. Senator Sheehy, I feel Brian McGinnis should bring up charges on Senator Sheehy. I want you to hear something that Brian said here about this war.
Being a fireman, I have a lot of right-leaning friends. My social circle is full of sports playing, working out, gung.
Sorry, guys, the volume on this is low, but just here we go.
Being a fireman, I have a lot of right-leaning friends. My social circle is full of sports playing, working out, gung-ho types that seem to just be Trump supporters. So if you're such a Trump supporter, enlist your children in the war, in the military right now. Put them in harm's way for the country that you are so, and for the administration you're so, just so down with. All right? Do that. Or you do it yourself. Get your old ass in there and fight like I did and see what you think about it all. Go put your life on the line for Israel. Go put your life on the line for Trump. Go do it.
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone that Benjamin Netanyahu's son lives right here in the United States. Benjamin Netanyahu's son is not out there fighting. He's not willing to risk his own family members. His son lives right here in Florida in a luxury penthouse apartment. He's on American soil. You don't see these Congress members trying to get their sons and daughters to go fight. They broke his arm. And I don't know about you guys, but you know, the Marines, like they don't really play around, you know. His family issued a statement. On behalf of Brian's family, we want to express our deepest gratitude for the overwhelming outpouring of support, the messages, and contributions over the last 24 hours. At this time, our priority is Brian's well-being. We are taking a necessary step back from the public eye to allow him to focus fully on his recovery in private. While he looks forward to engaging with all of you again very soon, his health and his family remain the current priorities. Thank you for your continued patience and for being such an incredible community. Please keep Brian and his family in your prayers. Excuse me, in your prayers. Team McGinnis. So the family right now is asking for some privacy. So that means please do not contact them at this point in time. And he has to recover because he now has a broken arm. But Brian McGinnis is also a Green Party candidate. Yeah, you have a politician that also assaulted another candidate. And I don't think he knew that at that time. Here's his website, Brian McGinnis. I am running to represent you, not to do the bidding of the donors. He's running for Senate in North Carolina. So if you're in North Carolina, health, economics, education, you have another option to vote for. Go to Brian's website. If you're in North Carolina, you have an option to contribute. You have an option to volunteer. Go to Brian's website and support Brian. If you're in Montana, do not continue to support Senator Sheehy. He's getting enough money from the pro-Israel lobby anyway. Why does he need your money? People don't want this war. The poll numbers show the majority of Americans do not want a war with Iran. That's on both sides of the aisle. Guys, this is a lose-lose situation. More Americans are dying. Iranians are dying. This is not something you go in and win, but as I told you before, what Julian Assange said is that the goal isn't always to win. The goal is to continue to funnel money through the military-industrial complex. It's all about profit. They don't care if these soldiers die. They just broke a Marine's arm. They are using these men. They're using these women, these soldiers. They're using them, and they are willing for them to die so that the U.S. will support Israel. It is going down in Congress, and more people are fighting back and more people are pushing back. And Brian is one of those people. So if you want to go support someone, go support Brian, someone who's willing to fight. Go support someone like Anthony Aguilar, who has also confronted Congress. Notice any difference here between the Green Party candidates and the independent candidates and those that are running in the Democrat and Republican Party? Have you noticed that they seem to be a little bit more willing to, I don't know, fight? Pay attention to that. Let's go to some of the comments, ladies and gents. Eric, we can go to part 2 of Type VNC. Shout out to Kia Espinosa, who just became a Sabby member. Let's give Kia a big whoop whoop. Tupacalypse said that Marine is the calmest person there. JB says McGinnis should sue and use the money to fund his campaign. That's an idea. Shout out to Hoops a Lot, who's been a member for 19 months. It reminds me of the movie The Truman Show. When civilians would sneak on that set and try to warn Truman he is being fooled, then swept away. Oh, wow. I didn't know that, Eric. Eric said Senator Sheehy's net worth is 70 to 200 million, one of the wealthiest in Congress. Isn't that crazy? Thank you for the super sticker, Dublin. And thank you for the super sticker, the Olive Roots podcast. Palestinian Christian here. I want to collab with you. Send me an email. My email address is in the description of all my videos. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Now we're going to move on to something a little bit more giggly. If your name is Pam Bondi, you are not having a good week. It is going down in Congress yet again. Representative Nancy Mace has decided to subpoena more people to testify about the Epstein files or their handling of the Epstein files. And now Pam Bondi is on that list. So it appears to me that the decision has already been made by the Trump administration that she's going to be the one that's going to take the fall. Trump's not going to take a fall. They'll throw her under the bus. She was the one that said she had the files. Then she said there was nothing to see there. But remember, she's doing so at the direction of Donald Trump. She is now being subpoenaed. Let's go ahead and bring this in. By Nancy Mace. Oh, Pammy girl, it is not a good week for you.
Domestically now, we've seen lawmakers late today vote to subpoena the Attorney General for the way her department has handled the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. You saw a handful of Republicans, right, so people in the president's own party, joining Democrats on the House Oversight Committee to vote to bring Pam Bondi in, including Nancy Mace, the congresswoman on the Republican side. Watch this.
I have a lot more questions, and I don't expect to be talking about the stock market. So she better not bring those notes when she comes to the Oversight Committee.
That's a reference to the previous questioning that Bondi went through just some weeks ago in front of a different House committee on this very thing, where you see here survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse stood. They were in the audience. They were wearing shirts that talked about releasing the files. Let me bring in Ryan Nobles, who's live for us on Capitol Hill. So this is interesting. This is a real sort of shot across the bow to the White House, to the Department of Justice, that they're subpoenaing now Pam Bondi. Ryan.
Yeah, and it's really born out of a sense of frustration from the members of Congress who are specifically interested in getting to the bottom of the Epstein controversy, that the Department of Justice is just not complying with the Epstein Transparency Act, which requires them to release every file available to the public as it relates to the Epstein files, and that they're only allowed to redact things if they're part of an ongoing investigation or to protect the identities or personal information of survivors. And members of Congress like Nancy Mace have felt that the Department of Justice has been way too heavy-handed with their redactions, that the redactions are inconsistent, that there are names like Les Wexner's name, for instance, a business partner of Jeffrey Epstein, an alleged co-conspirator. His name was redacted at one point, but then there are examples of survivors whose names have not been redacted. And they feel as though the Department of Justice has just not been forthcoming enough about why certain things have been redacted and how other things have slipped through the cracks. And so they want Pam Bondi to come in front of the committee, ask her about specific files, specific pieces of information, and try and understand this process as to why they have not been able to fully comply with this. And I would imagine as well, Hallie, that there's going to be questions about the fact that there's some 3 million files that the Department of Justice has just said we have in our possession, but we're just not going to release those to the public for whatever reason. So there's.
Let's pause here for just a second. Pam girl, because last time when you were testifying, you were all talking about the Dow. You were bringing up, why didn't you ask Merrick Garland, which they should have asked Merrick Garland, but they are asking you right now. And what is wild is that a member of Pam Bondi's own party is subpoenaing her. This subpoena isn't coming from a Democrat. It's coming from a Republican, Nancy Mace. She's not being partisan with these subpoenas. I'm going to show you a list of some of the other names because she's going all in. But I want to bring something else to your attention because they think that they have been very sneaky. Since this war started with Iran, did you know that the DOJ, which is Pam, they went in and removed over 44,000 files. Most of them implicate Donald Trump. Once they got our heads to look this way, like, oh, everybody's paying attention to the wrong war now. Let's go ahead and start removing some of these files. Yeah, not a good one for Pammy girl.
A lot of tough questions that Pam Bondi could get from this committee.
When you talk about the files, when you talk about the documents, there's an interesting sort of development today, first reported by the Wall Street Journal, that the Department of Justice now is confirming that it's got like something like 40,000 plus documents that it's sort of re-reviewing, right? That are not out because they're looking at them.
Right. And the Department of Justice said in a statement today that this is part of the process, that they put this stuff out as quickly as they possibly could, that some redactions and errors that shouldn't have happened or should have happened slipped through the cracks. And so therefore, they're going to bring back some stuff. They say the department has not deleted any files from the library. In compliance with the EFTA, our team is working around the clock to address victims' concerns, redact personally identifiable information and any images of a sexual nature. So they did admit there's some close to 50,000 files as of March 2nd that were offline for further review. Now, according to the Wall Street Journal report, among those files, Hallie, were specific allegations against Donald Trump, which of course has raised questions because this is not the first time that allegations against Trump have been taken off the website and then eventually put back up. So we'll have to see.
Of course. Let me just interject here. No, they're not re-reviewing these files. They're trying to run cover for Donald Trump. And here's another thing. According to Pam Bondi, what did she say months ago? They had already looked at everything, right? So which is it? Did you look at everything or did you not look at everything? We just continue to hear all these different lies. But they have been removing things one after another. However, many people already cloned those files. So even the stuff that they're removing, those that were working with Gmail, they cloned a lot of this information already. So it's hilarious to me. But do you see why Nancy Mace is calling her? You have a woman who is trying to protect other men from abusing girls. That's why when people say girl power, female, there is no girl power. There is no female power. There is money and power. And you look to see who she is protecting.
See if those files ever reemerge, Hallie.
And then when you talk about, the questions that they want to ask the Attorney General Pam Bondi, there's also kind of a new crop of people who they're asking to question, including Bill Gates, including Clinton confidant Doug Band and others, right?
We have to pause because I want to explain who some of these people are. Of course, you guys know Bill Gates. He also has apologized to his foundation. He just needs to step the fuck down. I told you he was lying years ago and he was lying again now. Kathy Rumler was an advisor for the Obama administration. She's the one in the Epstein files making fun of Black people. Isn't that something? She was one of Obama's advisors, working together close with him. And at the same time, she's in these email messages making fun of Black people. See what I told you when I say that liberals can be racist too? Thank you. The other one here, Leon Black, we talked about him before. He has some of the worst email messages in the Epstein files. He's the one where it is alleged that he bit a girl's private area. Has one of the worst ones. Leslie Groff is in there a lot. They are considering her to be a co-conspirator. Not familiar with Doug Band, Sarah Kellen, or Ted Waite, but there's other ones that are not featured here that I'm going to show you as well.
Yeah, and Kathy Rumler, the former Obama White House counsel. And then the other big name is Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, who you and I have talked about a lot. He's agreed to come and testify. Now, what's interesting about this round of the Gates, Rumler, Black, Groff, these are all individuals who right now the committee is asking to come in voluntarily. They're not formal subpoenas yet. And if you're a witness and you're being asked to come in voluntarily, that does give you a degree of negotiating power. You can say, I'll come in, but only if you ask me about X, Y, and Z, or I'll come in under these certain conditions. As soon as it moves to a subpoena, then it becomes more difficult, and the committee is less inclined to meet your needs, especially if you're not a former president of the United States like Bill Clinton. So it'll be interesting to see, especially someone like Bill Gates, who's very powerful, has very good lawyers, how he handles this. So far, he's not responded directly to this request, but I would be very surprised if any of the folks on this list find a way to avoid having to answer questions of this committee.
Yeah, it's getting wild out here, folks, and it's not just them. Again, this is the list that has been brought forward by Nancy Mace. There's more here as well. Again, she's calling it out. We're moving to subpoena U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. And of course, they they put her like on blast here with her hand raised from other testimonies. But yeah, that's who it's coming from. It's coming from Nancy Mace. I want to get to this other part here because here's some of the other people she's calling that she wants to come forward. Mr. Chairman, this is a solid start. The Oversight Committee, however, needs to bring in more individuals to more thoroughly continue the Epstein investigation. Here's my initial list, including your 7, but not including those already deposed. Wait till you see these names. Woody Allen, Peter Attia, Doug Band, we mentioned, Steve Bannon, who was also mentioned throughout the Epstein files. Remember, he gave that final interview of Jeffrey Epstein. Oud Barak, Gwendolyn Beck, Harry Beller, Leon Black, Richard Charles Nicholas Branson. That's Richard Branson, the owner of Virgin. Remember Virgin Records and all that jazz? That's him. Borge Brinde, William Joseph Burns, Sean Carter. That's rapper and businessman Jay-Z. Deepak Chopra, he's also mentioned in some very serious ways in those files. Maureen Comey, Alan Dershowitz, Glenn Dubin, Sarah Margaret Ferguson, Kevin Spacey, actor Kevin Spacey, William Henry Gates III, Leslie Groff, Susan Hamblin, Reed Garrett Hoffman. That's Reed Hoffman. He's the owner of LinkedIn or creator of LinkedIn. Victoria Houses, Darren Indike, Sarah Kellen, Richard Kahn, Tigran Kachashrian, David Seth Kotkin, who is also David Copperfield. David Copperfield has been mentioned for years in relation to the Epstein files, but that's his real name, folks. His real name is David Seth Kotkin. Turjay Larson, Nadia Mersenkova, Peter Mendelsohn, George Mitchell, Svetlana Pozendava, David Rogers, Kathy Rumler, Adriana Ross, Timothy Rauch, Daniel Sied, James Edward Staley, Larry Summers, Lawrence Paul Visaki Jr., Theodore William Waite, Earl Wayne, Harvey Weinstein, a former letter and additional subpoenas forthcoming. So it's others that she wants to bring forward. Now, here's the crazy part. Also, this vote took place where they were trying to make it, to get rid of this loophole that they have in Congress where Congress members are able to use a sexual harassment slush fund. I didn't even know this existed. So Thomas Massie said today only 65 people voted to release names of congressmen who have used sexual harassment slush fund to pay off claims against them. 357 members voted to refer it to committee, knowing the resolution will never make it out of committee. This was another vote that took place. Some people are saying that they felt like it was rushed, so that's why they didn't, vote for it. Some of people's favorites didn't vote for it, like AOC didn't vote for this. It's a number of people. Like he said, only 65 voted to release the names of the congressmen who were using the sexual harassment slush fund to pay off claims. By the way, this is something that taxpayers pay for. So I would start with, why the hell are we paying for Congress members to have a fund so that their names are not mentioned and they can pay off people for sexual harassment? Why are we paying for that as taxpayers? Now, Thomas Massey apparently mentioned this back in December of 2024. Listen to this.
You know, Congress has paid over $17 million in hush money for sexual misconduct inside of the offices in these buildings. And what's more is that was taxpayer money, right? The allegation is that President Trump paid $130,000 of his own money. But here in Congress, there may be some on this dais. I mean, I'm for turning loose all of these records. Who in here has had the taxpayer pay for their sexual misconduct charges the hush money? I bet there's some over there. There may be some over here. I don't know, but I do know it's taxpayer money. And I do know not a single penny of it has been turned in as a campaign finance expense. Is the FEC going to investigate the $17 million that the Congress has paid to settle, behind closed doors, these sexual misconduct allegations?
And let me tell you a little something else, because this has been going on for years, where you have members of Congress that have secret babies, that have had mistresses, had these affairs, and it produced a child, and they didn't want people to know about it. And so they try to find ways to pay the woman off. This has been going on for years, especially a lot of these senators, the ones that have a lot of money. These people have been protected. Meanwhile, they're out there preaching to you about how you should live your life, and they ain't living right. So that goes to show you just how much corruption is in Congress. Nancy Mace went on to say the loudest voices screaming release the Epstein files just voted to bury the sexual harassment files of members of Congress. Do you get it now? Yeah, I get it. They're all corrupt. Darth Powell said, it wasn't even close. I'm going to tell my kids this is Epstein Island. So now, does everyone understand why Marjorie Taylor Greene left? It's a sinking ship. She knows a lot of these people are corrupt. Now, I want to show you what Lauren Boebert said, because she was one of the people that supported that. And I guess she kind of let them have it here, that she was so pissed they wouldn't vote for it.
I'm absolutely disgusted that we couldn't even get to 50 members of Congress who want immediate transparency. Don't we all campaign on transparency? Don't we all go out and tell the American voters that we are leaders and that we are going to get justice for them, that we are going to do right by them? And then we hire their daughters to come work for us, and your tax dollars, millions and millions of dollars, has been used in this slush fund as hush money to silence victims who have been sexually harassed, sexually abused by members of Congress. And then Congress is going to do exactly what it does best, investigate itself. And we know that none of that ever goes anywhere. The American people demand transparency. And this doesn't just pertain to a ranch in Arizona or New Mexico or an island down in the Virgin Islands. This is happening right here in our nation's capital. And we should be held to the highest standards. And to every member who voted to send this to committee, where this was sent to die on the House floor just moments ago, I hope you have a darn good reason to tell your constituents why you are not going to stand up for the victims. And I'm glad that we are doing something about it here in the Oversight Committee. I'm glad that this motion was made here, so we actually have another chance at transparency. But again, these are your tax dollars. These are your tax dollars that were used to silence victims. They have been settled with victims. And to the members who voted against this, go home and tell your daughters what you did today. Go home and tell your daughters what happens in the workplace, no matter where it is, in your hometown, in your nation's capital, and tell them what you did to help continue to cover up decades of corruption. I am absolutely in favor of this motion.
It's going down in Congress, ladies and gentlemen. And here's the thing, the part that she said there about what do you tell your children? So I've been wondering that for a long time. Like, if you're the son or the daughter of some of these Congress members that vote the way that they do, how do the kids feel? How do their wives feel? How do their husbands feel when they see a lot of this corruption going on? And the thing is, with the kids, they don't really have a say-so, right? Because they don't have authority. They're not figures of authority. They just kind of have to go along with what their parents want them to do. But for the spouses, I wonder too, like, how do they put up with this? Like, how do they deal with this? Because it's sick and it's disgusting. I don't think there's ever been more of a time where our government has been, I don't want to say more corrupt, but the corruption has been so freaking obvious that you just can't even pretend not to know. It's everywhere. If it's not on social media, it's on YouTube, or it's just coming straight out of their mouth. They don't even care now. They used to try to hide these kind of things. They don't even really hide it as much anymore. And I think that's why some people just said, fuck it. I think that's why Marjorie Taylor Greene, other than the threats that she got towards her son, I think that's why she said, that's it. It's a sinking ship. That's why I say these people need to be replaced. They got to go. Because it's when you are aligned with the corruption, if you're controlled by it because your donors want you to do it, or let's say you don't have those donors, but the leaders of your party want you to do it, you're controlled now by the leaders of the party. But all of these people can just leave the party. All these people, like Thomas Massie, I think Thomas Massie said he can't, something about he wouldn't be able to run as an independent in the general if he were to lose the Republican primary. I think that's the way he explained it. But people like Thomas Massie, Ro Khanna, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's gone now, but these types of people really need to be a part of a different party. And I'm wondering how you guys think about that. I've been saying that for a long time. The people who are willing to call out the bullshit, they really need to be a part of another party. And the two-party system is, it controls so much. It'll only let you get so far. So pay attention, folks. It's a lot of things going down. Let's get to the comments here, ladies and gentlemen. Miss Kiwi said, "You're fired, Pam." Thank you. La Senora said, "I heard Paula Abdul was also in the files." Interesting. Measured Man said, "Yep, I heard J-Mail and Danks had already cloned them before they were removed." Yeah, a lot of people already did that. Thank you for the super chat, Measured Man. Remember they talked about Black who bought the Scream painting? If you research the paintings, Bohemian, it's disturbing, meaning zero consequences above the law. And thank you for the super sticker, Tiptoe Joe. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't had a chance to do so, do me a solid and smash that like button. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Let's keep it going on, ladies and folks. All right, it is going down in the Middle East. We have so much to catch up on because I feel like every day something else crazy is happening with this war with Iran. So I'm going to break this down into 4 different parts so that people can follow along because I don't want people to get confused. Let's start with the first part. We're potentially looking at another never-ending war. We are looking at a possibility of ground troops, whether it's American ground troops or if it's troops that are bought off and paid for by Israel and the United States. And we'll get into this. So let's start with part 1, the ground troops and the never-ending war. Pete Hegseth has made it very clear himself that they're not really trying to wrap this up anytime soon, which means that we would be looking at another Afghanistan. Listen to this.
In a few days, in under a week, the 2 most powerful air forces in the world will have complete control of Iranian skies, uncontested airspace. I hope all the folks watching understand what uncontested airspace and complete control means. It means we will fly all day, all night, day and night, finding, fixing, and finishing the missiles and defense industrial base of the Iranian military, finding and fixing their leaders and their military leaders, flying over Tehran, flying over Iran, flying over their capital, flying over the IRGC, Iranian leaders looking up and seeing only U.S. and Israeli air power every minute of every day until we decide it's over. And Iran will be able to do nothing about it. B-2s, B-52s, B-1s, Predator drones, fighters, controlling the skies, picking targets, death and destruction from the sky all day long. We're playing for keeps. Our warfighters have maximum authorities granted personally by the president and yours.
So here we go until we decide when it is over. Those are the words from Pete Hegseth. And if that is the case, we are potentially looking at another Afghanistan type of war. These never-ending wars where there's actually no winner, but a lot of money is made for the military-industrial complex. They're just laundering money. Now we are looking at them moving closer towards ground troops. And they're really serious about this. I thought it like, okay, they're just saying things, but they're really serious about this. As you will see, when they speak to Iran foreign minister here, he is not wanting a ceasefire. And listen to the reason why he doesn't want one.
Right now, you're saying Iran does not want a ceasefire.
We are not asking for a ceasefire. And we don't see any reason why we should negotiate with the US when we negotiated with them twice, and every time they attacked us at the middle of negotiations. So there is no request for a ceasefire by us, and there is no request for the negotiation with the US from us. We have never sent any messages to them.
So you can't blame him here, because here's the problem. Here's the problem. It's a trick that the US government does where they say that we're going to have negotiation talks. They start having these talks and then they bomb them anyway. That happened to Iran. These types of things also happen in Gaza. So why would they take them up on that again? So they're not looking for a ceasefire now. See, the time for all that is already past. Remember when Iran said they were willing to sit down at the negotiation table and work something out? So now that Donald Trump, I guess, is trying to like, okay, wait a minute, we're getting hit kind of hard. Let's sit back and really talk this out. They don't want to hear it now. It's too late. This is also considering the fact that you have Israel and the United States who are actively working together to try to get the Kurds to attack Iran. Now, this has gone badly before. It's just like this has gone very badly before, and they're trying to revisit something like this again. Now, here's one of the reasons that they think may have led to that. I think this goes back years. I don't think it just came from this, but something that major happened is it was alleged that an Iranian drone hit a CIA station in Saudi Arabia. So we're going right back to Raja again. In Saudi Arabia, it said there's no mention of any CIA personnel being wounded with the attack on the embassy, the latest in a series of Iranian attacks across the Gulf states. But we got a problem, right? I've seen the videos. Iran is pummeling Israel, these bases and institutions in Saudi Arabia, Qatar. And we're going to get to the global response in just a second, because it's not looking good for Israel. Tel Aviv is getting hit really bad. Despite what Trump is telling you, despite what Netanyahu's telling you, Tel Aviv is getting hit pretty bad. Iran is also getting hit bad. This is not just this go in and win and beat them kind of war. I think that Donald Trump underestimated the power of Iran. I really do. So one of the CIA locations in Saudi Arabia was hit. And now our CIA is trying to arm Kurdish troops to go into Iran and basically ignite a civil war. I kid you not. When all else fails, they'll try to use your own people against you. Let's get into this one here.
Multiple people familiar with the plan are telling CNN that the Trump administration is working to arm Kurdish forces, who they then expect to take part in a ground operation in Iran in the coming days. Let's get to this crucial reporting. The CIA working to arm Kurdish forces to stage some sort of a major ground operation going inside Iran. They want to spark an uprising. The details are incredible. What are you learning?
That's right, Erin. It's a lot to unpack. Honestly, this story continues to develop at a breakneck speed and often in mind-bending ways. We spent some time this evening with a senior Iranian Kurdish politician here in Iraqi Kurdistan who basically told us that the expectation among Kurdish Iranian opposition forces is that they will be going into Western Iran as part of some kind of a ground operation over the course or at some point during the next few days, that they will have support from the U.S. and from Israel, though he would not be drawn as to what exactly that support will look like. He also told us that President Trump himself had called the leader of the KDPI, which is one of these Iranian Kurdish opposition parties, today, and that they had what he characterized, I should say, as a positive conversation, though again, he did not give any details. And he said that we should be prepared for some surprises potentially tomorrow. Again, not giving details, but this is all coming at the same time as our colleagues, Natasha Bertrand, Elena Treen, and Zachary Cohen, are learning that the CIA has been working to arm Iranian Kurdish opposition forces with the goal of fomenting civil unrest in Iran.
Long story short, the U.S. and Israel are trying to arm Kurdish soldiers to go into Iran and create a civil war. Now, we're going to talk a little bit here about the Kurds so you can understand where some of this is coming from. The U.S. does have a history working with Kurdish troops. They are basically placed on the border of Iraq and Iran. They are really trying to ignite a civil war in Iran, using their own people against them. Now, let's connect geopolitics to domestic politics for just a second. We have that happen here. We have corporations, we have infiltrators, we have intelligence agencies that for years have used members of their own community to start some type of rift in the group or organization they're a part of. A good example of that is the Black Panthers. How Intel basically paid other Black people to join the Black Panthers and to turn against Fred Hampton and other members of the Black Panther Party. Similar thing with Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. You guys get the gist of it. These things still go on today. But the CIA is very active and involved here. I want to explain to you why this is giving me bad vibes again, because it reminds me of what happened with Syria. Don't forget that this same strategy was used before with Syria. In fact, I'll take you back to that moment. Who are the Kurds and why is Turkey attacking them in Syria? Does everybody remember this? Let's go on a little bit more here. The Turkish invasion of Kurdish-held territory in northern Syria has complicated an already chaotic war. What began 8 years ago as a series of nonviolent protests against the Syrian government morphed into an international conflict between dozens of local factions. Let's go on a little bit further. This happened under Obama and, of course, Trump's first presidential term here. Peaceful demonstrations against Assad in 2011 and 2012. There were various factions vied for control of Syria. These included pro-government militias, rebels fighting for a more democratic state, Islamic extremists, and militias from ethnic and religious minorities seeking to protect their areas from attack. Among them were several Kurdish militias. So let's get into this part here. Under the Obama administration, at first Obama resisted to play a direct role in the Syrian war, but then later on he changed his mind as the Islamic State took advantage of the chaos of the war to capture vast swaths of Syrian territory and Iraqi territory. It goes on to say in 2014, the U.S. joined an international coalition against the militants, conducting airstrikes and later building military bases on Syrian territory to assist ground operations against ISIS. See, this just goes to show you again how these things do not work out, especially for the Kurdish people. How do they become an ally? As Islamic State fighters swept across Syria, the People Protection Units emerged as one of the few Syrian armed groups consistently able to take on extremists. When an international coalition led by the U.S. sought local partners to contain the militants, they saw the Kurdish militia as the safest option. So again, note that it was led by the U.S. Now let's go into the Trump presidency to show you what happened there. Of course, this was Trump's first term. There's a lot here. Sorry, guys. All right, fast forward. Trump suddenly changed his mind. Actually, we go back up to this part here. President Trump long wanted to withdraw American forces from Syria, saying that the U.S. must avoid endless wars. He first ordered withdrawal in December, but suspended the plan after Defense Secretary Jim Mattis resigned in protest. However, later on, Donald Trump changed his mind. That was on October 6th during a phone call with President Erdogan of Turkey. Then he ordered American troops to leave the border. That gave Turkey open access to Kurdish territory, and a force consisting of Turkish troops and their Syrian Arab proxies began an invasion on October 9th. So I wanted to give you a rundown of that for just a second, because what has been revealed is that Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu in particular, has had intelligence communications with the Kurds for quite some time. So it's not like he has not had communication with them. And ideally, what would happen is that the U.S. or Israel or both would come to the Kurdish troops and would say to them, if you go in and do this for us, we'll make sure that you get this. Problem is, that's not what ends up happening. And that's not what happened in Syria. Syria has become a complete, absolute disaster, as we told you it would. Right? So they're trying to use Iranian Kurds against the Iranian people. We'll pay you this if you do this, and we'll make sure that you get this. So the ground invasion may not necessarily be done by American troops. It seems like they're trying to use Kurdish troops to do the ground invasion. Everything we're learning so far from this Iran war is very clear to me that it seems like they don't really have a concrete plan. They obviously didn't even have a clear exit strategy. It feels like they're making it up as they go along. Now, when questioned about a ground invasion, you'll hear the foreign minister here say they are ready.
Boots on the ground in Iran. Are you afraid of a U.S. invasion in your country?
No, we are waiting for them.
You are waiting for the U.S. military to invade, the ground troops?
Yes, because we are confident that we can confront them, and that would be a big disaster for them.
So you're saying that Iran is ready and willing to take on the U.S. military if there were to be ground troops?
Well, we were ready for this war even more than the previous war. So you can see, the quality of our missiles, how much they are upgraded after the last war, because we learned lots of lessons. And we are prepared for any other eventuality, even, a ground invasion. So our soldiers are prepared for any scenario. When I said that we are waiting for them, it didn't mean that we are waiting for continuation of the war. No, but we have prepared ourselves to confront with any scenario, with any eventuality, any possibility, and we know that we can handle that.
Oh, buddy.
Let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do under pressure. Give them a name to remember. Hey, let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do under pressure. A moment can live on forever.
A moment can live on forever. They are ready.
Are your allies Russia and China helping you?
Well, they are supporting us politically and otherwise.
Guys, this is why I say it's heading towards World War III. This is not, guys, you got to remember, they've been preparing for this for 20 years. They knew at some point Israel and the US were going to come after them and attack them. They have had decades to get ready for this. He said that so calmly, like a G. He sat there and just said, yes, we are ready for them. And they have the backing of Russia. They have the backing of China. It's an absolute disaster. Remember who struck first. The US and Israel decided to strike them first. Let's go to part 2. We went from ground invasion. Now we're going to some clarifications about this war. There have been war crimes that have been committed. And Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu are lying to the American people. One of them happened in international waters against an Iranian ship that was defenseless. Let's go ahead and get into this. What happened with this invitation from India? An unarmed Iranian ship was invited to take part in an Indian naval exercise alongside the United States. Its sailors were welcomed on land and paraded before the president as a gesture of cooperation. Then, at the last moment, the U.S. abruptly withdrew from the exercise, only to turn around and torpedo the very ship it had just stood beside. What followed was even more grotesque. After attacking an armed vessel, the U.S. refused to rescue the sailors it had thrown into sea, abandoning them to drown. The grim work of recovering bodies was left to the Sri Lankan Navy. This wasn't warfare. It was treachery of the most disgraceful kind, an ambush carried out under the pretense of diplomacy, followed by a cold refusal to show even the most basic human decency to the dying. It would represent a collapse of every norm that supposedly governs civilized conduct at sea. And yet, instead of outrage, much of the American media response has been indifference or rationalization. So this happened recently. Here's some animation here to show you. We'll mute the music here. So again, this event called Milan 2026. Again, defenseless Iranian ship. It was defenseless. And the U.S. knew that. That is a war crime. That is international waters. And they know that's against international law. But they did it anyway. Just like Israel, they continue to commit war crimes. Now, we have Kanwal here. He is the former Indian Foreign Secretary. He responded about this and said the Iranian ship will not be where it was if it had not been invited to take part in our Milan exercise. We were the host. I am told that as per protocol for this exercise, ships cannot carry any ammunition. It was defenseless. The Iranian Navy personnel had paraded before our president. The attack by the U.S. submarine was premeditated as the U.S. was aware of the Iranian ship's presence in the exercise to which the U.S. Navy was invited, but withdrew from participation at the last minute, presumably with this operation in mind. The U.S. has ignored India's sensitivities as the ship was in these waters because of India's invitation. We are far from politically or militarily responsible for the U.S. attack. Our responsibility is a moral and human plane. So he is saying that India is not responsible for what happened here. Many are believing that India was a part of it, that this was a setup or a trick by India. We may never know, but that's a war crime, and that's messed up. A lot of corporate media isn't even touching on it the way that I did. They won't tell you it was wrong. That tells you everything. Then there is this clarification that they attempted to make about the schoolgirls, the girls that were bombed. And I want to show you just how awful Pete Hegseth, whatever he is here, has been. This guy is so bad at his job. He puts up this map that is supposed to show that the U.S. weren't at fault, but it actually shows the U.S. were at fault. Listen to him here.
Tie right there. You got a tie on. Yeah.
Thank you. Come back with the BBC. Can you give us an update on what the administration knows, what you know now about the reported strike on a girls' school in southern Iran on Saturday?
All I can say is that we're investigating that. We, of course, never target civilian targets, but we're taking a look and investigating that. Red tie in front.
Just on the basis that with the information you would have, your reconnaissance abilities, ability to gather information, I mean, it's several days on now. So is there any clarity on whose munition this was?
We're investigating it. Thank you.
So he said they were investigating it, right? Okay. Let me show you the map that he posted here. This map that he posted, I guess that was supposed to be his defense and say, well, we didn't know that was a school. You see this green dot? School. The map actually doesn't help his case. This is what happens when you put people in a position and they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Right in the middle of the strike map, U.S. War Secretary Pete Hegseth proudly displayed at a Pentagon briefing today sits Manab, the site of the school in southern Iran where a U.S.-Israeli strike killed 165 children this weekend. He said they're still investigating, right? But if you notice, journalist Chris Osiek plotted the Manab school green dot on the strike map released by the U.S. military today. It sits briefly within the cluster of U.S. strike zones shown on the Pentagon briefing map. So as you'll see here, these strike zones, these are the little orange diamonds or squares, however you're looking at it. Right there is the school. So why would you even have a strike zone here and the school's right there? This is no different from what Israel has been doing when they were bombing those Palestinian schools. And there's more. They've attacked more schools in Iran. Again, shout out to Drop Site News. They've been doing a good job. More schools struck and damaged in U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran. The missile hit 2 schools in the town of Parand, south of Tehran. This is according to state-affiliated Fars news agency. The Israeli military said Thursday it had begun a large-scale wave of strikes against infrastructure in Tehran. The campaign has drawn comparisons to Israel's Dia doctrine, a strategy associated with 2006 Lebanon war that calls for disproportionate force and large-scale destruction of infrastructure in areas linked to hostile groups to pressure civilians and create deterrence. So you can see the pictures here. That's another school. So we saw all of this before with Gaza. They're killing civilians again. This is not a new thing. And the U.S. government is lying about it again. Different administration, same bullshit. Pardon my language. So they have been doing this. I told you they have this thing where they go after the kids. Let's go to the next part, Eric, where they go after the kids. They always try to, especially Israel, they like to kill the children because they don't want them to be future Iranians. They don't want them to grow up and reproduce and make more. So they try to kill them when they're young. Another clarification. This one is all a doozy. The UK came forward and they said that a Shahed-like drone, Iranian drone, targeted the RAF base in Cyprus. Now that's in Greece, right? So they say that they were targeted there and it was an Iranian drone that did it. When I first heard this, I said, I call BS. You know why? Sounds like Israel would have done that. Let's not forget that when this war kicked off, Benjamin Netanyahu tried to enter Greece. He tried to get into Cyprus and they rejected him. Even Sky News had to come back and retract the statement that Iran did that strike. Listen to this. Wild things, folks, wild things.
Let's just update you with some of the latest information that we're getting from the Ministry of Defence, and this is about UK military use around the Gulf. We're hearing overnight RAF Typhoon and F-35B jets continued defensive air operations across the Middle East with support from Voyager air-to-air refuelling in defence of British interests and allies. Important, I think, that the word defensive operations and defence is included in that from the Ministry of Defence, as Keir Starmer has made it very clear that is what UK troops are doing, defensive operations only. They can also confirm that a Shahed-like drone which targeted RAF Akrotiri on the 2nd of March, that was the drone that came in at midnight. They are saying that that was not launched from Iran. So that is interesting and significant. They are not giving us any information as yet as to where they think that was launched from. But a drone that hit RAF Akrotiri, that was the one I think that caused damage to the airstrip, did not come from Iran, was not launched from Iran. Obviously, may well have come via Iran. And in the last...
So they had to come and they had to retract it. There are a number of false flags that are happening during this war. And some of these things that they're blaming Iran for doing, Iran is not doing. Israel and the US are out there doing false flags. Like I said, it made the most sense that Israel would have been the one that did that because they would not let Netanyahu come in. They want a world war. They want more people to get involved and help them take down Iran. So they're going to try to make it look like, look, Iran's even attacking Cyprus. Look, they're all over here now. Meanwhile, Israel is also attacking Lebanon at the same time. One that we also need clarification on, this one is new as well. Iran claims that a drone struck an aircraft carrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln. Now, this one we're waiting for confirmation on, but you guys know the USS Abraham Lincoln, we talked about the ship earlier on before this war kicked off. They were already in the seas in the Middle East, and there's a lot of American soldiers on that ship. It says Iran claimed that its IRGC Navy drone struck down U.S. aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln near the Strait of Hormuz as it approached the area from the Gulf of Oman. Iranian authorities did not provide evidence to support the claim. The U.S. has previously rejected similar Iranian statements about attacks on the carrier, saying the missiles or drones involved did not come close to hitting the vessel. So we don't know, but this is what is being alleged at this point in time. What I'm here to tell you is that this war is not going the way the U.S. thought that it would go. And they are lying to the American people and making you think they're going out there and they're just, oh, we're getting everybody. We're taking them down. Tel Aviv has been hit massively. I've seen these hits that have broken through the Iron Dome. That's no cakewalk. The U.S. bases that have been hit in the other countries in the Middle East, whether Saudi Arabia, Qatar, these are not like gentle hits. And I would say Iran hasn't even unleashed the full force that they could unleash yet. So it is not good for anyone. We move to part 3, which is the global impact. Israel, while they are bombing Iran, is also bombing civilians in Lebanon. That's right. Hezbollah has also entered this as well. This is Beirut. Israel is wiping out entire apartment buildings in Lebanon's capital at 2 a.m. while families are sleeping. Not a military base, not a battlefield. These are civilian homes. Here we go. So do you see? You see how they're coming after people in Lebanon? You see how they play dirty? They're attacking civilian homes. Now, this brings France back into the picture because Macron just recently was talking about, oh, we should send a ship to help out Israel and the US. But after this attack in Lebanon, now Macron is singing a different tune. And you're not going to believe this, but I'll show you for yourself. France to send armored vehicles to Lebanon, Macron says. Now we're entering into this World War III type situation where you have France. I don't know what Macron doing. 1 minute he want to dance with Israel, another minute he want to dance with Lebanon. But what he goes on to say here is that France will strengthen its cooperation with the Lebanese armed forces and provide them with armored transport vehicles, as well as operational and logistical support. Macron says this as Lebanon was pulled deeper into the war with the Middle East earlier this week. Everything must be done to prevent this country, which is close to France, from being dragged into war once again. In this moment of great danger, I call on the Israeli Prime Minister not to extend the war to Lebanon. I call on the Iranian leaders not to involve Lebanon further in a war that is not its own. So this is wild. This is wild. So you see what's happening now? France says, wait a minute, you're attacking Lebanon. This actually impacts our interests. We're going to send some help for Lebanon. This is so messy. This war is so messy as war can be. We continue on with the global impact, and this is something that can impact a lot of people. When we talk about Qatar just decided to shut gas liquefaction. Qatar shuts gas liquefaction, and it says will take weeks to restart. Guys, this is not a game. Now is not the time to sit around and say, oh, I wonder what the Kardashians are doing. Now is not the time to Netflix and fucking chill. This is not a game. The gas prices are already starting to increase. I saw it when I was at the pump. So here we go. Qatar declared force majeure on gas exports on Wednesday amid the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran, with sources saying it may take at least a month to return to normal production volumes. The move means global gas markets will experience shortages for weeks, even in the unlikely scenario the conflict ends today, as Qatar supplies 20% of global liquefied natural gas. These are the global implications here with this war. Pay attention to the gas pump. Here's the biggest one that I think everyone needs to pay attention to. The U.S. empire is declining. Right now, one of the biggest global implications is what was announced earlier today. Let me make this bigger. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, and Qatar are discussing withdrawing from contracts with the U.S. and canceling future investment commitments in the U.S. to alleviate some of the economic strain imposed upon them by the Iran war. The end of the U.S. empire. This is from Financial Times, if you're wondering the source of this here. I had to use this version because you have to subscribe to them and pay, and I'm like, fuck that. The official said 3 of the 4 big Gulf economies, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, and Qatar, had jointly discussed the strains being put on their budget and economies, but they declined to name the states. A number of Gulf countries have begun an internal review to determine whether force majeure clauses can be invoked in current contracts, while also reviewing current and future investment commitments in order to alleviate some of the anticipated economic strain from the current war, especially if the war and related expenses continue at the same pace. In other words, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, and Qatar said, you're on your own. This is where shit gets real. They can walk away from us at any time. You guys get it? Saudi Arabia does not need the United States. The United States needs Saudi Arabia because they have a lot of oil. This is that decline of the U.S. empire that I was referring to. This is probably one of the most scariest things. And this is what Donald Trump is playing with. That's why he wanted to go get and kidnap Maduro, because he wanted to be able to use that oil from Venezuela. But that in itself is not going to be enough. Then you think about, as much as we talk about China and Russia, this was kind of funny. Here's Xi Jinping. Bro, you seeing this? There's Putin. There's Xi Jinping said, hold up, got a line. North Korea, bro. This is what happens when we don't want to be a part of a multipolar world and you want to police the world. And you, for years, have told all these other countries they have to bend to your will. Eventually, other countries decide to lock arms with their buddies and their neighbors and say, fuck you. That statement there from the Big Four could be the first step of us seeing the other Arab nations aligning with each other and not the United States. And 4, the final part is Congress. Congress is the one that's supposed to declare war. Obviously, under a Trump administration, Trump just does whatever the hell he wants to. This is where the Democratic Party should come in and be a true opposition party and fight back against Donald Trump. But let me show you what they're doing. This is how they play in our faces. We're in it. Democrats won't rule out giving Trump more money for Middle East war. Make this smaller so you can see where it's from. Politico. And here you have Alyssa Slotkin, CIA Alyssa. The Democratic Party is not willing to walk away from giving Donald Trump more money for war because they want the war too. That includes Elizabeth Warren and her performing ass out there saying, Donald Trump is saying that he's going to do this. This war is crazy. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't have a plan. But you stood up and clapped for it at the State of the Union address when he talked about bombing Iran, Liz. It's all theater. Hakeem, Schumer, they all support the war. They don't want to say this publicly because they don't want to sound just like Donald Trump. But the more you start to see this type of behavior, you start to see there isn't as much difference as you thought between these people. because they all fight for the military industrial complex and they all fight for the corporations. They don't fight for you. That's what both parties have in common. Also in Congress, Thomas Massie did bring forward the War Powers Resolution. I want you to look at the way that they voted. Gen X Girl said they will not stop this war. They will pass bill after bill, walking us step by step into accepting war. Look at these numbers. I'm going to show you how this is intentional, right? 215 Republicans voted yes. 157 Democrats voted yes. That's 372. Okay. 53 Democrats voted nay. Watch this.
On this vote, the yeas are 372, the nays are 53, 2 recorded as present. 2/3 being the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the resolution is agreed to.
So what they do, this is what they do, guys. What they do is that they make sure that they have just enough votes so that it does not pass. They will pass this bill after bill, walking a step into accepting war. Motion to suspend the rules and agree. Let's go to the Thomas Massie one. I'm going to go to the Thomas Massie one real quick. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I forgot to add this one. It's so much stuff to cover. Here we go. Now, this is the War Powers Resolution one. He said it failed, but we put everyone on record. Look at the votes. 2 Republicans said yes. 210 Democrats said yes. That's 212. 215 Republicans said no. 4 Democrats said no. That's 219. Look at these 4 Democrats. Notice how they always have just enough so that it doesn't pass. That's on purpose. If you haven't heard it from any other podcaster, I'm going to tell you that's intentional. They have a couple of people in the Democratic Party that'll play the rotating villain. That's how they stop shit from passing. Many of us remember Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin doing that under the Biden administration. But the good thing is that Thomas Massie said we got them on record. So here's what I would say. All those people that voted against the War Powers Resolution should be removed from office. All of them, the Republicans and the Democrats. Get their asses out. Stop voting for these people just because. If anything, they haven't shown you that they earned your vote anymore. It is going down in the Middle East. This war with Iran, I told you, would not be easy, would not be a cakewalk. The U.S. is not going to win this war. Israel is not going to win this war. I don't even know if anyone's going to win. Answer that poll question if you can, because I'm curious if you think anyone would actually win. But this is not Afghanistan. I feel like they're trying to make it that way. They're going to try to make this 20 years in Iraq just like it was 20 years in Iran, just like 20 years in Afghanistan. Pete Hegseth go, we will go for as long as possible. And here's the other thing. People are less likely to vote someone out of office during war. And Donald Trump knows that. So we're going to keep an eye on this, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, every day it's new news, new information. But this is wild. All right, let's come to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. We got one more story for you. Shout out to Marlon Wells for being a member for 13 months. Problem is, the two parties are the same party. Thank you, Nas. Hegseth is a clown. It's like an SNL skit. Yeah, really. Learning to Love Myself said, when they turned it into a holy war, all bets are off. Thank you, Lubin. The goal is never to win, it's to destabilize. There you go. Thank you, Leonard. Draft Barron and send him in the first wave. Right? Thank you, Lubin. I hope he's right. The USA needs to get punched back for being the bully every time. Thanks, Marlon. Every base in the region has been bombed. This is just pretending they have a plan. Thanks, Joseph. Objectively, the worst member of BRICS by many measures. Thank you, Kinman. Jon Stewart is human feces. Okay. Where that came from, but thank you, Michael. Iran called Brit Embassy Street Bobby Sands Boulevard. Thank you, Michael. Irish say Viva Palestine. Get them Iran. Thank you, Cowpoke. People forget that Iran is militarily and politically backed by China and Russia. What happens if they enter the war? We're walking toward the abyss. I agree. Dangerous, man. Thank you, Marlon. America has to win this war for them or watch them launch nuclear weapons. Sad. This will not end well. They are the ones who never should have been allowed to have these weapons. And holy smokes, thank you, Blueser, for the $200. Solid as always, Sabs. Thank you. All right, we got one more story for you guys, which isn't as heavy, but we do have to cover this because I think karma can be a good thing. Yeah. So let's talk about karma, shall we? Piers Morgan, host of the Piers Morgan Show, where people debate each other and scream their heads off, is being sued. And after all these years of Piers Morgan asking people, but do you condemn Hamas? He's not being sued by a pro-Palestinian activist or speaker. He's not being sued by an Iranian. He is being sued by an Israeli asset. I kid you not. He made the announcement himself. I had to do a screenshot here because Piers Morgan blocked me over a year ago. That's why you'll never see me on the Piers Morgan Show. Breaking. I'm being sued by Hausdorff Media from UKLFI. I welcome the opportunity for an open court test of Ms. Hausdorff's defense of the Israeli government claims about its actions in Gaza, not least because it continues to bar journalists from reporting freely there. So this is the woman. She's an Israeli lawyer. She's also an Israeli asset. She's the one that is suing Piers Morgan from this conversation that took place, I think, about 9 months ago, where Dave Smith was a part of this as well. So we're going to go through a little bit of this so you can hear what the conversation was. And you can tell me whether or not you think she had a cause for a lawsuit, because I don't think that she did. Let's get into this part here first.
Over 1,200 people murdered, 7,000 wounded by 3,000 terrorists breaking over a border to attack anyone they got their hands on. I don't need reminding of what happened that day. That is why I defended Israel's right to defend itself so staunchly. But I cannot defend what is happening now. What is happening now is militarily inexplicable to most people I've spoken to in the military. I have a lot in my family. Nobody understands what Israel's goal is here, other than flattening Gaza and kicking off. Well, hang on. As Smodrich has said, it is to take over and clear out Gaza of all the Palestinians. That is genocide, isn't it? Unless, I mean, you're a lawyer. No, you tell me.
Israel's war aims have been clear from the outset, which is the destruction of Hamas.
They haven't done that.
And the return of the hostages. Well, because the war's not over yet.
You haven't done either of those things. All you're doing is killing more and more civilians, and you've been starving them.
Well, but who's you? Forgive me. I'm here as a lawyer.
The Israeli government, and you're here to defend it, right?
No, I'm here to defend the rule of law and the weaponization of international law, which has been consistent throughout this process. The propaganda that we're discussing right now, which is clearly what has shifted your position and perspective on this,
what do you mean by propaganda?
Deeply dangerous. Calling Israel a committer of genocide or saying that it is starving children.
Well, actually, the people alleging that Israel's committing war crimes are two former Israeli prime
who
ministers.
have their own political agendas here. Let's
how convenient. The two former prime ministers of the country have said that you are committing, as a government, not you, but the government is committing war crimes, and you dismiss it as just a bit of internal politics.
Well, no, it's a very serious matter that the misinformation that I would like to be able to come on to address is now also being propagated by two very sore individuals, Prime Minister Olmert, because he also served a prison sentence, and has had his entire proposed peace framework, that of essentially creating a Palestinian state in East Jerusalem and the West Bank, turned upside down by the realization, and he hasn't had, unfortunately, the temerity after the 7th of October to recognize the risk that he would have put Israel to in light of the Hamas takeover.
And when you see, as we saw, and when you see, Natasha,
I was answering the previous question.
Okay, but let me just
that has nothing to do with Israel starving people and blocking food from getting in, which is a war crime. That has nothing to do with Israel bombing schools. That has nothing to do with Israel bombing hospitals. These people are depraved lunatics. They really are.
This isn't productive.
On the point of legality, actually, it's very productive. On the point of legality, only last week the Israeli government announced new settlements, 22 settlements.
Well, no, can we pause?
Well, hang on.
Yes.
On the West Bank, 22 settlements, which the international community views as illegal. They announced 22 new settlements. As a lawyer, given your adherence to the point of law, presumably you would condemn that.
Well, this is exactly why we need to be clear about how international law applies and why the notion of these so-called illegal settlements is a misnomer.
You don't think they are?
It's not a legal term, it's a political term, and it is part and parcel of a misapplication of international law to the status of the territory. These blood libels, occupation, ethnic cleansing, colonialism,
so you think the settlements are not illegal?
And genocide are all part and parcel of the propaganda, which I would like to be able to come on to, because
so anytime you accuse Israel of doing something, it's either anti-Semitism or it's a blood libel. Let me ask you guys a question. If you kick out a population of people from their homes and then you enclose them in a space that they're not allowed to leave, how is that not occupation? This is the problem with supremacy, guys. I told you, all this chosen people mess. This is the problem with supremacy. This whole idea that you can't do anything wrong. This is where it gets you. And all the people say, oh, it's a religion. No. This is not about religion, because Zionism isn't even religious. The founder of Zionism was an atheist. He wasn't religious. Hell, Benjamin Netanyahu isn't even religious. This ain't got nothing to do with religion. This is just ethnic cleansing and supremacy. Call it like it is. And so this is apparently what she got her panties all up in a bunch for. Because he's telling the truth. He's calling it out. It took him a long time to do so. Let's not forget, Piers Morgan, this is karma. Because the thing is, I don't like people getting sued. I don't like that. Sabby not like. But here's the thing. Piers Morgan, you sat there for 2 years asking everybody, but do you condemn Hamas? This is probably why you blocked me. You were willing to give Israel the benefit of the doubt until you realized you got the okay to call them out, okay? Your mentor, Rupert Murdoch, and they're all Zionist. That's who mentored you. That used to be his boss. And when you got the heads up that it was okay to finally criticize Israel, then you started to do it.
All of the evidence goes in completely the opposite direction in terms of Israel's compliance with the laws of armed conflict and its in the amount of steps that Israel takes. Unprecedented in the history of armed conflict, and military commanders
that's just a
will
load
tell
of
you,
bullshit. I'm sorry, it just is.
which other army
It just
sends
is. Which other
to...
war in recent times have you had half the population is under 18 and you killed 20,000 kids in
Those figures are
20 months?
Hamas figures that you are constantly
give me an example of where this morality has been played out elsewhere.
Well, I was explaining earlier that the Hamas figures are inflated, that there are internal inconsistencies.
How convenient for you. You don't know what the figures are, so how do you know?
That because there have been independent
How
studies.
do you know
by
how many figures are
statisticians.
inflated or otherwise? You don't know how many have been
Because
killed.
we know Hamas lies. It is an internationally prescribed terrorist
Well,
organization.
some might think
And the
you're
fact-
lying
the
because
fact-
you say on one hand, I don't know how many children have been killed, but on the other hand, and that's a blood libel if you say we've killed any of them, but on the other hand...
That's not what I said, no.
Yeah, but on the other hand, you know all about the ratios and you know how humane
Would you like
the
to
Israeli
understand
forces
why?
are being, but you don't know how many they're killing.
Because even on Hamas figures, which we know to be false, which do not make distinctions
You
between
don't know
civilians
they're
and
false.
We do, because there
How
has
do you
been-
know they're false? You
because-
don't know how many have been killed.
Because Hamas has even itself revised those figures down and acknowledged that they are false. And the UN is still touting.
So how many
false
children has
figures on
Israel
that.
killed?
If we go back to
Well,
the
can you
question,
answer my question?
If you go back to the ratio,
Do you know my
question-
do you
no,
know-
but I can tell you the ratio, even on the
what's-
basis of Hamas figures.
You can tell me the ratio without, but how do you know if you don't know how
I
many
can
have
tell you the
died?
ratio even on the basis of the false Hamas
So you've no
figures.
idea how many have been killed, but you can tell me the ratio.
I can tell you the ratio.
You're,
on the
you're a
basis-
smart lawyer.
on
Do you
the-
not understand how ridiculous that
Are you
sounds?
listening to
If we
my
were in a
answer?
courtroom now,
I can
you
tell
would
you-
be demolished
No.
by a fellow lawyer. They would say, what are you talking about?
Piers, this is not how courtroom etiquette is conducted, I'm afraid. I would be
Actually,
permitted
some
to
of my
finish-
favourite lawyers conduct something exactly like
I
this.
would be permitted to finish a sentence. The reason we can say that the ratio before the ceasefire was 1-to-1 or 1.15 to 1 is on the basis even of Hamas
Well,
figures.
1-to-1 or
despite
5-to-1? Which one was it?
1-to-1 to 1.5 to 1. At different points in that period, those were the two separate estimates.
Let's go to the next part here. So again, like I said, she didn't have the numbers, of course, right? But she says someone else's numbers were wrong. We go on to this part here.
And that is on
But
the
to
basis
know that,
of
you'd have to
Hamas.
know how many innocent people
that is
you've
on the
killed as
basis
well.
of the false Hamas figures. So the reality is that the expectation would be the ratio is
You
in
don't
fact
believe
lower
that.
than
So
that.
what is the number?
The reality is that the expectation would be the numbers are even less than that. That, in any event, is unprecedented in the history of urban armed conflict. So it puts the lie to all of these accusations that we have been hearing. And the reason, let me finish this sentence, if you will. The reason that it is so terrible, that it is so dangerous that these lies are being spread about Israel, that even you and other respected international journalists have begun to propagate them, is that it is having a direct
calling me a liar?
impact. No, that you have been taken in by them.
Really?
Is because it is having a direct impact on the safety of Jews around the world. We've seen the impact of 14,000 babies in 48 hours when 2 Israeli staffers were murdered, executed on the streets of DC.
So she's comparing two people, which I believe that was a false flag too. I called that out a long time ago. She's comparing two people to the hundreds of thousands of Palestinians that Israel has killed. You see this? So you're not allowed to say anything negative about Israel because that makes things bad for Jewish people all over the world. But you can say bad things about everybody else. Make this make sense to me. Always the victim.
Only yesterday we saw a fire
What
attack
was the link?
against-
What was the link there? Are you
The-
saying
the
that
fact
the
that
person?
2 days after
are you
Tom
saying the person
Fletcher-
that perpetrated that appalling murder was actually even aware of the story you're talking about? You're
Well,
drawing a direct
Chicagan-
link.
The Chicagan that committed that murder shouted "Free Palestine," and this is for Gaza.
You mentioned something
2
about 48.
days.
We don't know that that guy committed that murder or not. That guy was not, even at this time, that guy was not found guilty. We don't know if he did that or not.
2
babies.
days after that full story went
Yeah,
around the
it
world.
was a full story because the idiot that came out with it should have known better. I didn't promote that in any way at all, other than to say.
But you
he
are
was an
promoting
idiot.
false allegations of starvation and targeting
No, I'm
civilians.
promoting the fact that Israel's government launched a 3-month blockade, which has led
Without
to
the context
people
of
starving.
25,000 tons of
All right.
trucks of
Let me
aid
bring
having
Dave.
been provided before that.
Dave.
Facts without
all right.
context are misleading.
All right, Dave, we're a bunch of.
So you guys see how crazy this is, right? So I'm just waiting to see, do you see anything that's grounds for a lawsuit? This is the crazy part about all of this. This last part here, I thought was also interesting.
In every other war I've ever been involved in including sending my Daily Mirror journalists to cover the Iraq war in Baghdad, where they rang me at midnight to ask if they should leave or stay in a hotel, the Baghdad Hilton, I think it was called, before shock and awe arrived. So huge responsibility on my shoulders then about the lives of my journalists, but they were prepared to risk them to report the truth to the wider world. Israel has decided no journalists from outside can go in.
For 3 reasons.
And make that assessment themselves.
Yes.
What right does Israel have to do that?
For 3 reasons. Will you allow me to finish?
Well, there are no reasons.
Well, you've
It's
just
none of
asked
your
me-
business
you
whether
just-
the journalists view their
Well,
safety
you
as being
haven't-
at risk.
I'm sorry, you haven't heard the reasons yet. The first, of course, is the safety of the journalists, and I appreciate you don't accept that. The second,
I think it's a load of nonsense.
The second is the
The
safety.
idea you're doing is that some quaint concern for the safety of journalists is bullshit.
That was reason number one.
Utter bullshit.
Reason number two is the
These
ability.
better get better.
Is the ability of IDF soldiers to be able to conduct this war against Hamas without.
Without the journalists getting in the way?
No, without.
They've actually, by the way, they killed more journalists in Palestinian journalists than in any war
Hamas
in
members
modern
wearing
history.
press vests are not journalists. And reason number three.
So none of them are journalists.
And reason number three.
So just to be clear, none of the Palestinian journalists who've been killed are actually journalists.
I
Is
said
that your?
Watch this.
Hamas members.
Oh, they're all Hamas
Palestinian
members.
Islamic, those that are. And
Do you see the talking points that they use? So you're automatically Hamas if you're in Gaza. You see how that works?
Every single dead
That's not what I
Palestinian
said.
journalist
I
is a
don't-
member of Hamas. Is that your position?
No, listen, I appreciate Piers.
That is
your
also
style.
bullshit.
But
No, I'm
misrepresenting,
not gonna let you bullshit.
misrepresenting every
So that's
word
2 out of
is
2. What's the
okay.
third reason?
Our mutual friend Douglas Murray was embedded with the IDF in Lebanon.
You said the words yourself. I love Douglas, but he was embedded with the IDF.
Right.
He's unbelievably
But in
pro-Israel.
let me finish.
So of course
Will
he
you
was
allow
going
me
to
to
write
finish?
what
No.
he witnessed while embedded with the IDF.
No, let me finish what his experiences there were. The difference
Oh,
is that
really?
in Lebanon,
You have to tell me.
There is something I think that you won't have heard. The IDF are able to allow journalists into Lebanon. He wasn't the only one. There were many other
There
international
have been a
journalists with him.
tiny... No.
Those other
bullshit.
international journalists with him
Bullshit.
were very clear.
There
that
have
they-
been a tiny
beg your
handful of journalists led in by the IDF in
I
tightly
appreciate-
controlled environments
And you
to
know-
witness what the IDF were prepared to let them
And
see.
you know what
And
those
actually, what it
journalists
needs this
said?
war to stop the bullshit, which is out of control, by the way, in this last 3 minutes, is to let international journalists go in and do their jobs. And they will worry with their networks or organizations about their safety, but they should be allowed to do their jobs. And there's only one reason why the Israeli government doesn't want international journalists crawling all over Gaza. It's because they do not want them reporting
Piers.
what they will find.
Reason number
Bingo! Ding, 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 ding. Which many of us said 2 years ago, but Piers Morgan was sitting there defending Israel at every cause. So this is the woman that has filed a lawsuit against Piers Morgan because of this interview. That's coward shit. So because she couldn't win the argument, she's filing the lawsuit. By the way, again, that was like 9 months ago. I mean, she's still humiliated. It is going down for Piers Morgan. Piers, it is going down. But Piers Morgan, that's who Piers Morgan was trying to protect. He was trying to protect Israel for years. He was fighting for them and saying, oh, what about Hamas? And oh, God, horrific attack. And he was defending Israel at every single cause. That's who he was fighting for. And that's who he's getting sued by. I don't like people being sued. I don't. At the same time, I see it as karma. Because Piers Morgan knew the truth before he decided to start telling the truth about what Israel was doing. He knew all along. It's a wild, wild world. All right, let's get that poll. Yeah. Poll time, poll time. The poll? Oh, here we go. All right. Do you believe the U.S. and Israel will win this war? 3,434 votes. Okay, good. We got more votes this time. I know I messed it up last time. 56% said hell no. 4% said yes. 31% said no one will win. And 9% said I'm not sure. Interesting, folks. Interesting. Quick update, ladies and gentlemen. I am heading into my B-Day weekend, but just quick reminders for you. Sunday live stream, you will get to see the new intro. I have a new intro for the show and new branding that Scott created. So it'll be a completely different opening. Just letting you know that now, because people are gonna be like, "Whoa, what's going on?" Also, a quick announcement as well. This was sent to me. People were asking about people protesting about the Epstein situation. Apparently that is happening at Zorro Ranch. This was sent to me a couple days ago. International Women's Day rally in Albuquerque to Zorro Ranch, New Mexico. That is March 8th, which is my birthday. People are rallying in Albuquerque and caravanning to the gates of Zorro Ranch, the sprawling estate where Jeffrey Epstein trafficked and abused girls for decades while the FBI looked the other way. I'm going to go ahead and send this to you guys. The link here in the chat for those of you who are in that area. We also have my mutual aid workshop is also this Saturday. Don't forget, guys, I already sent out the Zoom link via my Substack. I'll do another post for that on Friday, just in case you missed that one. So Friday afternoon, I'll send out another one so you can sign up if you want to attend. It's virtual, it's free. It's at 11 a.m. Eastern time on this Saturday. If you are interested in learning how to do mutual aid, which many of us, do, then join that, because I basically break it down for you. It's 1 hour. And then we do the Q&A at the end. And I explain to you like how to do it, how to get started, and you can go from there. So meet me there. So you should get another invite Friday via my Substack. Some people have already signed up, but yeah. And make sure you follow the instructions via the Substack. That's very important. We also have another announcement. Emergency protest against the war on Iran in cities across the United States. This is via Answer Coalition. Protest in every city and town. Stop the war on Iran. Saturday, March 7th. And I'll put the link to this in the chat as well. But just to give you an idea, Akron, Ohio, there's California, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Alaska, Asheville, North Carolina, Baltimore, Maryland. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's a lot of them. So I'll put the link to this in the chat as well, if those of you want to attend that. And that rounds out this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Surfer Boy says, Sabby, please tell me you're not going to get rid of the doobie-doobie-doo. I love hearing you say that in the intro. It's a completely different intro now. I've been doobie-dooing for years. I can still say doobie-doobie-doo throughout the show, but I've been doobie-dooing. It's time for, it's time for something new. But that is it for me tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you live Sunday. And I hope you guys have a good weekend. Eric's going to come on and he's going to close out the show.
Maybe we can find another place for the doobie-doos.
Yeah.
We'll think about it.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, this is like my 5th year now. So it's like,
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah.
you'll like the new intro. But yeah, look out Sunday for that one. One other thing I wanted to mention is that just on that Piers Morgan story was that, looking at it objectively, that the woman who's suing him, that commentator lawyer, she speaks well, right? She's obviously intelligent. She presents well. And so to me, that makes it even more worse. Like the word that comes to my mind is pernicious, that someone who has talents and smarts would be that sold out to the Zionist cause, to take your talents and put it to that cause just to make some money, or for whatever motivations you have. It is like worse than buffoons who just say stupid stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like special place in hell type stuff.
Yeah. I could do that outside. Put the doobie on the outro. I could do that. Yeah. I could doobie on the
It's
way
an
out.
interesting idea.
That's a good point.
Have to think about that. There you go. We got a smart audience. They got good ideas. All right. So I'm going to close things down here. We're going to let Sabby go on with her night.
All right, guys. Have a good weekend. See you Sunday.
Or Saturday with the workshop.
Oh, yeah. Or Saturday if you're coming to the workshop. So,
all right.
Adios. All
right. And I am going to close things down here. And yeah, StreamYard has done some weird things, with our layouts. But I'll have to investigate that later. But yeah, I'm going to say a couple quick words and read out these super chats. We did our poll. We're going to have some YouTube chats. And we're going to have some Rumble rants in the mix here. Let's see. I do want to get back. There we go. Corey and I are messing with this system at the same time. All right. I do have a link here to bring up. But yeah, there was a bit of other news in the Kristi Noem. Kristi the Gnome. But Kristi Noem got fired. And what's interesting about that, let me look at my notes, was that, if you go back to how she got in, right? That was like January 2025. And there were like she, as far as her confirmation, like she sailed right in. And there was a list of 6 Democrats who voted for her. And it's like that thing Sabrina was saying earlier. It's like it's part of the game that they want to make it look like the Republicans and Democrats are fighting each other, and one's the good ones, one's the bad ones, depending on which team you're rooting for. But in the end, they're all on Team Billionaire. And like back when they voted her in, when they did the confirmation, I mean, she had no business getting confirmed in the first place. I mean, she's such she's such a ridiculous character. And you have, so they made sure, so the 6 who voted for her, you had Fetterman, who's, a next level clown. You had Tim Kaine, who was Hillary Clinton's great anti-choice vice presidential pick. These other ones, Andy Kim, Gary Peters, you never even heard of of course they had Alyssa Slotkin, as Max Blumenthal might say, Democrat from CIA, D-CIA, and Jean Shaheen up here in New Hampshire, who's, plays like she's, a progressive-ish or, just moderate Democrat. But anyways, the point is, it's a game. And they're all representing billionaire interests when it comes down to it. So yeah, we have the story, Trump fires Kristi Noem. And there's of course the real connection to the ICE raids. And she was instrumental in what was happening with the ICE raids. Now, this story, mentions further down that his advisor, Stephen Miller, was, the real person who seems to have come up with and directed these ICE raids, but she was instrumental. And, in having these ICE goons in our streets, just, rousting people, killing people, and the whole bit. And so it has finally gotten to the point where I think there's just enough political pressure and backlash that they've had to back off on the ICE raids, and Noam is going to be the person who takes the fall for it. Now, the other thing about this, sorry, I'm just rearranging here. Here we go. The other thing about this is that, so she's the director, secretary of Homeland Security. Is I think when we as people who have clear demands and who want to think about the interests of this 99%, our position should be that the Department of Homeland Security shouldn't even exist. The idea, like I'm old enough to remember before 9/11, 2001, that the idea of even using the word homeland when talking about the United States, like that would be just considered a very strange, radical concept. Like that would be like something you would say like in Germany, like in Nazi times, like the fatherland. And now it's just, we're the homeland, Department of Homeland Security. It's this massive, you can't even wrap your mind around how large it is, department of spooks. And of course it's all really about money. It's a huge part of it is it's huge funding for those military industrial complex, for these companies, these mega corporations that make huge, massive profits off these government contracts. And so the point is, we have to, while laughing and certainly welcoming the ouster of a clown like Noam, we have to keep in mind that this whole system is deeply corrupt, and it's all about whose interest they're working in. And Noam and Trump, they're perfect representations of this corrupt system. And we need to be talking about how we deal with this system and fix this system. And the Democrats are never going to do that for us. We need a mass movement that has clear demands, that focuses on the corruption. And we're going to keep talking about that, more and more on this show. I think that's what we tend to center on this show. And of course, on 11 Demands, there it is. So go to 11demands.org if you want to see more on that. And we'll keep having those conversations. And I think some interesting ones too are coming up too, that I'm working on some stuff. So I'll give you, that's your little hint there. But anyways, we do got super chats. So let's see what we got in the queue for these super chats. Thanks for this one, Christopher Newman, who says, Iran said they were going to stop the cancer, but by any means necessary. Well, Barron not going, that his son from Rianka, his daughter, remember David Letterman exposed him. All right, thanks for that one. And let's see, thanks for the super chat. Karina, he says, thank you, one of my favorite news analysts. Appreciate you. Sabby appreciates that. And thanks for the super chat from Joe Dirt. How do we see the list of who voted for war? You can, if you Google something like 2026 War Powers Resolution, that should get you to various either articles or the congressional records of who voted. And I know it might have been a little confusing during that story because there were several bills and whatnot, but what it came down to was that Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna were pushing a War Powers Act that would at least, it wasn't going to stop the war, but it would at least, if it passed, would have been Congress saying that Congress should be consulted and Congress should be directly involved when it comes to these kind of war acts. And it's gotten so far ridiculously out of hand. The whole War Powers Act itself is Congress just delegating and I forget the word for it, but just letting go of their authority and giving it to the president, because Congress doesn't want to be responsible for the calls that send people to war and that get these wars going. So Congress has said, we're just going to say, we hear some reasons, and then if the president can elucidate these reasons, then he can just wage war however he wants. It is like deeply unconstitutional, just every aspect of it. But this is how far we've gotten. This is why, we need that mass movement, that one of its core demands is to demand peace, to demand the repeal of these various acts that give the authority to wage war away from Congress and hand it off to the president. It's of a piece. So Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna were it's better than nothing. It's steps in the right direction, but what I always come back to is if they really wanted to really push back against power. They would leave their respective corrupt corporate warmongering parties. They would form a new coalition with like-minded people in Congress. I think someone like MTG, if she were really, on board with this effort, she would stay in Congress and leave the Republican Party and help form this new coalition to really get something done. And the fact that they're not doing that is very telling. So there you go. And thanks for the super chat. Wanker Tanker, he says, F all forms of white supremacy, including Zio ideology. I hear you. And, and also like settler colonialism is really at the core of a lot of this. And it is very directly in the 11 demands to say, stop all support for any countries that engage in settler colonialism. And that applies to a lot of what's going on. But it also applies to what we're doing. So as always, we gotta fix our house at home first. And thanks for the super chat, Circa. I love how you are always consistent, thorough, and organized in bringing us the truth. Hope you have a blessed birthday and year. Sabby appreciates that comment. And thanks much for the super sticker, Karina. And Marlon Wells says, happy birthday, Sabby. Appreciate that. I'm sure she does, Marlon. And thanks for this super chat, Karina. He says, "Will Miss Dewey do?" Oh yeah, I think she showed that one. Yeah, well, Miss Dewey do. You're excited for what is to come. Excuse me. Yeah, you'll like the new intro and stuff, Scott. It's Scott Handshoe. We're gonna have to make a point of giving him a good shout out as well, because he did a really great job on. Because he was the editor for the Removed documentary, which you can still see out there on Sabby's YouTube channel. He was the editor for that. Did a super awesome job, and he's done an awesome job on the new intro video for the show. All right, I'm just bringing up the Rumble rants. Here we go. I gotta hit this one, and nope, I gotta hit the other one. Hang on. Sorry, just trying to figure out how to bring up. Oh, there it is. Aha. And will that do it? Nope, that doesn't do it. Yes, StreamYard has really mucked us up here. But we'll show it this way. Thanks for the Rumble rant, Goo. Since that Piers show, Israel then admitted that Hamas death tolls were true. She already lost, and ICJ said Israel get out of Jerusalem, West Bank, and Gaza. Yeah, there's a term for what that woman on Piers Morgan was doing. It's called sophistry, or just bullshitting. And it's not about getting to the truth. It's about getting a point of view across, regardless of what's actually true. And thanks also for this Rumble rant. Goo says, a prime example of a narcissistic psychopath, Bassem Youssef. Okay. And thanks also for this one. From Goo says, said it once, to say it again. Just say no to white Pocahontas. Okay. That must be a reference to old Elizabeth Warren there. And that, I think, gives us what we got for Super Chats and Rebel Rants. All right. That's going to do it for us tonight. Hope you enjoyed the show. Check Sabby out again on Sunday. That should be the usual 5 p.m. time on Sunday for the new intro videos. Yeah, we got some new intro videos, some branding. Those of you who are maybe eagle-eyed may notice a new Sabby Sabs logo that's up there in the right-hand corner. So that is actually a little hint of a little bit small change in the branding. It's not huge, but yeah, the new intro is cool. It rocks out. You can see that Sunday, and lots more stories. As always, thanks to everyone for watching. And until Sunday next time, have a good night. Keep up that fight. I gotta make sure I play the right one here. Here we go. All right. No, that ain't it. We need the outro. There it is. All right. Until next time, thanks everyone. We'll see you.